Hello class, here's a drawing that I made. I just want to show various techniques of how to draw in Photoshop, and that really a perspective or any rendering can really look like anything. So in this case I want to give the drawing a line feeling, sort of make it look like it was made out of lines, as often is the case in architecture. Now I have some other things that are going on besides pure lines, but in this video I want to say, well, if you want to make something that is a photograph or rendered in whatever way, how do I make it into lines? And there's actually a fairly easy way of doing that in Photoshop through a few simple tricks I'm going to show you in this video. Because you don't necessarily have to go out and draw a drawing like this, but maybe there's just a piece of the drawing or something else that you want to make and sort of have more of a feeling of looking like a line. Obviously, if you're doing a rendering, let's say I modeled these buildings back here, oftentimes the software you're using to model it, you can just export the lines independently. But that doesn't necessarily take in the things like the siding that we see on here and other such things. So you can use these tricks for that. You can use them to make people have outlines or cars or buildings or whatever the case might be. Anyway, that's enough of an intro, I guess. What I've done is I've taken this tree here, and I want to point out this is the drawing that is sort of stylized. Here's the same drawing before I did all of this work. So we can see there was a real photograph that I turned into those lines. The cars were real. The building itself, again, was sort of rendered with materials and things of that nature. And the trees, these trees I actually drew in Illustrator and brought them into Photoshop. But there you go, that's what we're going to do. So what I did is I just pulled out one of these trees to show you the steps on how to do this. There's a few things we want to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this original image, and again, you can work on a separate file like I'm doing here, or you could actually just do this right in your rendering file, however you want to work. But I'm going to take this image here, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's completely grayscale. So I'm going to go to Hue Saturation and just take the saturation way down, just like this. And it'll give us black or gray lines, and we can change that later if you want to, like in my drawing where I actually have brown lines. But we have to start at grayscale, the only way this will work. So I'm going to just right click over top of this layer and duplicate it, and it's going to give me an exact copy. This time I'm going to invert my drawing. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Invert, and it'll be sort of this look here. And then I'm going to come up to this top layer here, this one that I've inverted. I'm going to go to Color Dodge as the blending mode. And we can see that almost turns white. In fact, this one doesn't quite, but a lot of times when you do this, almost all you see is complete white. And that's perfectly fine, because what you're going to do now is you're going to go to Image, or sorry, I'm going to do a Gaussian blur. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur over here. And you're going to set this, you can see the more I go down, the less white it comes, and the more I pull this up, the more sort of it gets to lines. And a tree is difficult because there's so much noise happening in here. Something like a person or a car would work much easier. And you can see, you've set it to wherever you like to sort of how big the stroke and how dark the stroke is you want to work with the tree. Usually a number between 4 and 6 or 3 and 6 works pretty well. So I'm going to set mine down that low. And so we'll go set it there. And now this tree is 2 layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select both of those layers by holding Shift and clicking with my mouse. Right click over top of this and say merge these 2 layers. So I just have one tree, and I can copy and paste this into my drawing and work from it. Now there's a few other things you might consider doing. You don't have to, but you might consider doing. One is to sort of give this all stroke just a stroke outline, which it works great for people and cars and some of the things I did in my original image. So to do that, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard and click on this icon over here, and we can see what it does. It just selects everything on that layer. And just for safekeeping for now, I'm just going to make a new layer. I could do it on the same layer as my layer 1 copy there, but I'm going to make a new layer. I'm just going to go to Edit, Stroke, and I'll set this to black, or I should do a gray tone, but I can adjust this in a moment. I'll go to black, and I'm just going to set my pixels. I'm going to try 2 pixels and see what happens, and say OK. And when I deselect this, we can see what it's done is it's given the outline of that building there. And if I turn that layer off below, you can see what it's done. And so this tree looks like it's more been drawn with a bunch of lines in that kind of way. And if I want to, again, what I should do is I should just hold Shift, click over here, right click, and say merge these layers. Now, again, this is a gray tone. scale lines, but I can change this to any color I want, and sometimes I think it's fun to play with different colors. So you can go to Image, Adjust, Hue Saturation. Now it's hard to adjust a gray or a black line with Hue Saturation unless you hit this Colorize. You can see once I hit Colorize, it sort of gives it a brown tone, and then I can really change this color of this line work to whatever setting you wanna set it at. So I don't know. We'll go with green because that's what's on my screen right now, even though green might be a little silly, but we'll say OK. You can always do any other adjustment tools like levels and things of that nature to bring out the whiteness of it if you want to strengthen the lines and less of the stipples in this case, or make the darks darker by playing with the blacks and so on and so forth. Once you get it set the way you want, in this case it's in a separate file, so I just select everything and copy it and then come to my drawing and paste it in. And once you do that for everything in your drawing, and once you get good at it, it doesn't take that long, you can compose a drawing like this, or you could use it in pieces. Some of your drawing might be lines, some of it might not be, but you have ultimate flexibility there. So I think that's a great little trick that's simple to use, and go and have fun with that and make great drawings.